the history of cooking oil and margarines. Cooking oil processing has begun thousands of years ago where people had learned to use fire. It is acquired by pressing different plants, seeds, or nuts and heating animal fats. In 19th century, the first vegetable oil to be introduced in America by the Southern Europeans is the olive oil, while the first oil to be produced in China and Japan as early as 3000 BC is the soybean oil. As for margarines, it is invented in French by shipwright Margerines, who was looking for a cheap and stable substitute for butter. It is originally extracted from animal fats, where they would heat up the fats and let it solidify in room temperature. Before January 2006, the margarine is created chemically by a process called hydrogenation. Application of oils and margarines. Cooking oil can have different tastes and function. It is also common for frying and baking, but it can also be used as salad dressings or food dip. It also acts as a medium for heat transfer, which provide the flavors, texture, and aroma to the foods. Margarine is commonly known as a substitute for butter, but is also said to be a healthy option or replacement for butter. Margarine can enhance taste and flavor during baking. It also acts as a topping or dressing for some foods, which is commonly used as a bread spreading.
Next, we move to types of oils and margarines. Firstly, palm oil. Palm oil is the most common cooking oil. Many people use palm oil in their cooking. Palm oil also contains high saturated fats. Next, coconut oil. Coconut oil is extracted from coconut meat. It contains lauric acid, which is a saturated fat that will help to raise good cholesterol level. Next, olive oil. Olive oil is made from olives. It contains healthy monounsaturated fats that which will help you to lower the risk of heart disease or any cardiovascular disease. And then flaxseed oil. Flaxseed oil is said to be the good source of soluble fiber. It has laxative effects that help to relieve constipation. Then avocado oil. Avocado oil is made up from pressed avocado pulp. It contains oleic acid, which is a type of healthy monounsaturated fat. It also a good source of antioxidants. Lastly, peanut oil. Peanut oil contains vitamin E, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. Next is about the types of margarines. Firstly is hard and uncolored margarines. This type of margarine is usually added as shortening for baking and cooking. Next, traditional margarines. Traditional margarine contains saturated fats and are mostly made up from vegetable oils. Next, margarines with monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats. It is said to be the healthier type of margarines that are made from sunflower, soybean, cottonseed, or olive oil. And then stick margarines. Stick margarines contain fewer calories than butter, and some stick margarines also contain trans fat. Next, margarines with phytosterols. Margarines with phytosterols contain plant compound known as phytosterols, and this type of margarines also low in cholesterol. Lastly is light margarines. Light margarines contain higher percentage of water than traditional margarines. It also contains low fat and calories.
Next, difference between fats and oils. There are 4 types of fats, which are saturated fats, trans fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. A healthy diet should contain both monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, as they decrease LDL cholesterol. The major difference between fats and oil is that fats are composed of high amounts of saturated and trans fatty acid, which become a solid form at room temperature, whereas oil are mostly form of unsaturated fatty acids, which is a liquid form at room temperature. Fats increase the level of cholesterol, while oil help to lower the cholesterol level in blood. Fats have high oxidative sensitivity compared to oils. Fats originate from animal sources, while oil mostly come from plant-based sources. The example of fats include margarine, butter, cream, and meat, whereas the example of oils are avocado oils, olive oils, and corn oils.
Processing of oils and margarines. Firstly, we look on processing of oils. First step, harvesting of oil seeds. Grains such as soybeans, sunflower, canola, mustard, and cotton seeds are harvested. Second step, cleaning and grinding. The seeds are cleaned or dehulled before being compacted in the press. At this point, if the seed is large, the seed is crushed or broken up into smaller pieces. These uniform pieces are then conditioned by heating before being pressed for oil. The two products of this process are the raw pressed oil and the pressed cake, which is the compressed dry material of the seed. The raw oil is filtered before moving on to the final steps. Third step, solvent extraction. Pressed cake is flaked and broken down for additional oil extraction. The flakes are ground up and mixed with hexane to produce a slurry which is heated. During heating, the hexane evaporates and is collected for further use. While being heated, the mill releases the remaining oil which is mixed with a small amount of hexane that did not evaporate. The excess oil is then collected, filtered, and stored in a processing tank. Fourth step, refining. Refining has several combination process steps for producing an edible oil with characteristics that consumers desire, such as bland flavor and odor, clear appearance like color, stability to oxidation, and suitability for frying. Here you can see the process step of refining that consists of degumming, neutralization, bleaching, and deodorization. The final step is packaging. The completely processed oil is then measured and poured into clean containers, usually plastic bottles for domestic oils to be sold in supermarkets, glass bottles for imports, or domestic oils to be sold in specialty stores, or cans for imports.
Let's move on to the processing of margarine. Firstly, several vegetable components have been used in the production of oil used in the manufacturing of margarine. For example, soybeans, corn, cottonseed, or canola seed. This oil likely would have been extracted at high pressure and temperature with solvent. Most edible oil production use what is known as food-grade hexane to extract this oil. They use the word rancid to describe the smell produced by the oil. The word rancidity scientifically refers to the odor that created by fats and oil that have been broken down into shorter. The next step in the process 5 and 6 are hydrogenation, where hydrogen gas is added in the presence of nickel catalyst at high temperature and pressure. The process adds hydrogen molecule to change of fatty acid to create fat that are saturated. After oil have been hydrogenated, the next step is to make sure that fatty mixture is made up primarily of the glyceride, which compound composed of 3 fatty acids that link to glycerol molecule soap. The next step in the process, according to the diagram, is bleaching to make sure that mixture is look more white. Last but not least, artificial flavors, synthetic vitamin, and natural color are added to the mixture in package in block and then promote as health product.
Differences of margarines versus butter. Instead of butter, we can use margarine as substitute, and since there is no animal fat in it, it is not a dairy product. Canola oil, soybean oil, and other plant-based oils are used by manufacturers to make margarine. For butter, it is a dairy product, and it was made by churning cow's milk cream. Next, margarine has a low content of saturated fatty acids because it contains no animal fat. Hydrogenation is the term for the margarine making process. Vegetable oil becomes solid at room temperature through this process, while butter contains a lot of saturated fats and cholesterol because it is an animal fat, and the process involved is churning and separation. Last but not least, margarine contains only 35% of fat, and butter contains approximately 80% of fat. Chemistry walls of margarines. Emulsification to combine oil and water. Because water is a polar molecule and oil is a non-polar molecule, so water molecules tend to want to form a formation together, which is why water has a high surface tension. When uncharged oil is added to water, the water tends to push it away because it would rather associate with itself. It is crucial to avoid separation in a substance like margarine. So, emulsifiers must be added to the mixture to eliminate this. All emulsifiers have two ends, a hydrophilic end and a hydrophobic end. Hydrophilic ends attract water, while hydrophobic ends attract oil.
Spoilage of oils and margarines. Oils and margarines can turn rancid or spoil due to the exposure of oxygen, heat, and light. Oxygen can oxidize and break down the carbon-carbon double bond in unsaturated fatty acids, forming a carbon-oxygen bond. This bond can lead to other end products, including aldehyde, ketone, and carboxylic acid, which have rancid odors and taste. Then, exposure to heat. Heat can accelerate oxidation because the molecules move and collide with each other more quickly. Lastly, exposure to light. Ultraviolet and visible light can enhance the oxidation. Now, how to identify spoiled oils and margarines? First, there are changes in color, smell, and taste. Next, they produce paint-like or chemical-like smell. And then, they produce bitter taste in oils and soapy taste in margarines. The color also turns darker, and in margarines, it can also become moldy.
Moving on to how to store oils and margarines. First of all, oil should be stored in airtight containers or bottles to prevent exposure to air. It then should be kept in a dark and cool place to prevent it from light and heat. For example, palm oil and coconut oil should be stored in airtight containers or bottles and keep both in a dark and cool place. As for olive oil and flaxseed oil, it is best to store them in a dark glass bottle. And the ideal temperature to store olive oil is 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Peanut oil has the longest shelf life as it can be kept for 2 years if stored in tightly sealed container and away from heat and light. As for avocado oils, it should also be stored in dark and cool place. It is quite stable at a room temperature, so it is unnecessary to refrigerate it. Next, how to store margarines. Margarine should be stored in a refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below to prevent them from being exposed to light and heat, which can make them become spoiled and rancid. Margarine may be last for 3 to 4 months when unopened and 1 to 2 months when opened.
Nutritional aspects of cooking oils. In this aspect, the cooking oils are considered as healthy in terms of their smoke point, where smoke point is the highest temperature that an oil can be heated before becoming oxidized. Hence, when an oil becomes oxidized, it will break down and become toxic or carcinogenic. Literally, the more stable the fat in the form of oil, the less susceptible it is to oxidation. Therefore, saturated fats are more stable than buffer. Among the healthiest cooking oils, namely ghee or clarified butter, which smoke point is 250 degrees Celsius, coconut oil, smoke point is 204 degrees Celsius, olive oil, smoke point is 240 degrees Celsius, avocado oil, smoke point is 190 to 205 degrees Celsius, palm oil, smoke point is 235 degrees Celsius, and lastly, butter, smoke point is 175 degrees Celsius. That's all from us. Thank you.